What do you do when Hogwarts will not stop sending letters? Hey friends, welcome back to Wizarding Lab. This is episode 3 of our chapter-by-chapter Harry Potter read-along. If you are new here, the idea is simple. We read one chapter each week in our little book club and talk about each chapter separately. What happens in that chapter, if there are any plot holes, the relationships between the characters, and theories that might come up in that chapter, we talk about all of it. We just chat so we can get familiar with the story from a different angle, not only the first, straightforward way we read it. If you have never read the book, this is a great chance to move forward with us each week based on the chapter plan. And if you have read it before, it might not be a bad idea to reread it again and this time pay attention to details that did not feel important to you the last time. It's a good opportunity to do this with us alongside a bunch of other Potterheads in the group, and during the week we can talk a lot and share opinions. Let's go to Chapter 3. This chapter is bringing our story closer to the magical world that Harry Potter is about to enter. In the first 2 chapters, Harry was a baby, then we reached him at 11 years old, and now little by little he's about to step into a world that was already meant for him, and our wait to reach Hogwarts is getting shorter. For a lot of Harry Potter fans, this chapter feels very nostalgic because a lot of people have been waiting for this moment for 20-something years, waiting for Hogwarts to send them a letter so they can walk through platform 9 3/4 and enter the school. And yeah, that probably did not happen for you since you are listening to this episode. Let's get into what's inside this chapter. One of the most important things here is a hidden kind of comedy, and behind the design of that comedy, Albus Dumbledore is sitting as the mastermind. Why? Look at the letters. In a really strange way, they keep trying to reach Harry. You could say Dumbledore is kind of messing with the Dursleys. He could very easily make them give up, but it's like a cat playing with its prey. How do we see that? The very first letter that arrives for Harry knows the smallest details of where Harry lives. It knows he lives in the cupboard under the stairs. Couldn't the letter reach Harry in a different way? Because later in the series, we see letters arrive with basically no drama at all, arriving to the Dursleys easily, different letters that we'll talk about later. But honestly, since we don't like the Dursleys and a lot of us hate them, let's just say it. Look at how much Dumbledore, or not even Dumbledore personally, the whole Hogwarts system is humiliating the Dursleys here. Like it wants to say, you are nothing. Because it could pull Harry out of that house in 1,000 other ways, but it feels like it prefers the Dursleys to raise their resistance step by step and for Dumbledore's side to annoy them more and more and embarrass them more and more. Maybe it's the answer to all those little cruelties the Dursleys did to Harry for 10 years. But either way, you can't ignore that Dumbledore is basically playing with them. Dumbledore knows Harry is living under the stairs, but he does nothing. And when the letter comes, the next time he doesn't send one letter, he sends a ton of letters, like they're coming down the chimney. So why not just send one letter again? And if they didn't respond, why do you wait through all these stages? They go to a hotel, then they go to an island, and only then you send Hagrid, and Hagrid shows up and those events happen that we all know. After the first letter, it's pretty easy to guess that they don't want it. They don't want Harry to reach Hogwarts. So you could talk to them and you could do it yourself. The same way you do it later in the books. You could talk to Petunia and take Harry to Hogwarts. But Dumbledore either prefers not to do that or decides not to do that. I wanted to add this too. This is a side of Dumbledore that shows up in this chapter. And another thing, Vernon in this chapter for the first time calls Harry by his name. Vernon obviously doesn't like Harry, and this is probably not kindness, it's fear. He realizes there's some magical surveillance over his house. He tries to back off a little and he calls Harry and tells him to come out of the cupboard under the stairs and move into Dudley's second bedroom, the smallest bedroom in the house, the smallest of the bedrooms. And here we notice something. Harry calls that place my storeroom, and he has a sense of ownership over that little corner of the Dursleys' house. If we want to look at this chapter properly, it has a very exaggerated kind of comedy. It's almost like Rowling is trying to soften the bitterness in Harry's life by adding some over-the-top events, so when a kid reads Harry Potter for the first time, the sadness hits a little less, and instead they get pulled into the storytelling games Rowling is playing. But here we learn something. One of the gifts Harry once got from the Dursleys for his birthday were Vernon's old socks, and those socks actually end up becoming strangely important later. One of them becomes the reason Dobby is freed in Book 2, and another one, if I'm not mistaken, in Book 3, Harry hides the enemies Ron brings back from Egypt inside that sock. And both of those are odd socks, mismatched socks, socks Harry got from Vernon. Vernon unknowingly ends up helping Harry, and later we know the sock Harry gives Dobby at the end becomes a huge help to Harry as the story continues. Then in the story, we see Vernon decides to get out of the house. First, they go to a hotel, then they rent a shack on a rock just to stop Harry from going to Hogwarts no matter what. And honestly, this is weird behavior. At the same time, they don't like Harry, and at the same time, they fight so hard to stop him from being taken away. Guys, if you dislike Harry this much, with the first letter you should be happy and let this kid get out of your house. This is a strange contradiction. I can't really justify it, unless they somehow do care about him, but they don't know how to care, and I don't know, I don't even have a clean excuse for it. If they care, why treat him like this? A contradiction is sitting here, and it feels strange. If you don't like him at all, how did you accept that baby from day one and raise him? And if you hate him that much, you could have sent him to an orphanage over and over again. Or, I don't know, you could have left him on that cold November night in 1980 and let him die there. And at the end of this chapter, we get a really addictive cliffhanger. You can't finish Chapter 3 and not jump into Chapter 4. A cliffhanger is where the story suddenly cuts off. If it was a TV show, it's the hook that keeps the viewer waiting for the next episode. Here, too, if a reader is reading Chapter 3, they immediately jump into Chapter 4. And we know that very noticeable counting Harry is doing leads to the entrance of someone, and we'll talk about that fully in Chapter 4. I'll keep it short by repeating this point. Dumbledore in this chapter is taking revenge for all the cruelty the Dursleys have done to Harry over the years, all at once. The truth is, Petunia and Vernon in this chapter become toys in Dumbledore's hands through all the different ways the letters keep arriving at their house. And Dumbledore could have delivered the letter in a totally different way from the start, like the letter suddenly appearing on Harry's pillow so he could read it. But he didn't want to. It's like he wanted to fully annoy Vernon and Petunia, maybe as payback for everything they've put Harry through in the last 10 years. Let's end this episode here. Until Chapter 4, I'm waiting for your comments, and I will honestly try to read all of them and reflect your opinions. Until Chapter 4, have a good night and a good day. Take care.